What's going on, Lakers fans? Welcome into the Lakers Report here by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, as we have a loaded show for you guys, as we got big-time news around the Atlanta Hawks, as they could be open to trading Trey Young and Dejounte Murray this offseason. That was coming in from Bill Simmons. And then also Woj gave a huge update around the Lakers head coaching search. So stay tuned for that. We'll get to that on the tail half of today's video. But if you guys could, before we get started, just drop a like on today's show. The bosses actually challenged me before I hopped in the studio. Can we get to 200 likes? So if you guys could help me out and help me avoid a very awkward meeting with my bosses and just drop a like on today's show, maybe we could hit 200. But let's first off start off by start talking about Trey Young, as he is probably the most likely trade candidate and trade target for the Lakers if they were, to target a big-time name from the Atlanta Hawks. So, a little bit more about what Bill Simmons said around the Atlanta Hawks trading both Trae and Murray. He says, the thing I keep hearing from people is that if it was a true over of one on FanDuel, Trae and Murray get traded and the overs won, and you could bet under, push, or over, that some people seem to think both of those guys are getting traded is a thing I've heard. So Bill Simmons necessarily said if you could bet on either Trey Young or Dejounte Murray getting traded, he says you should bet on both of them getting dealt at the trade deadline. But let's talk about Trey Young here first, and just terms of his fit with the Los Angeles Lakers. So I think Trey Young, in terms of the Lakers having a need for just a over-the-top scorer, a guy you can run the offense through, like Trey Young is on a short list of guys I would want them to target. And plus, we know Trey Young, he is a liability on defense just due to his size. He's kind of got some Steph Curry in him where, he plays super hard. He really tries, and he gives it his all on that side of the floor. But just due to his natural athletic ability, it just is hard for him to keep up with these, guards in the NBA. But if you would pair him up with an anchor like the Lakers have in an Anthony Davis, in a Jared Vanderbilt on the outside, you could almost hide him on the defensive side of the floor. But what intrigues me so much about Trey Young is his offensive ability. And I think he is truly one of the more underrated playmakers we have in the league when we talk about who are the best offensive generators we have in the league right now. I feel like Trey Young's name doesn't get talked about as much as it should. And I can imagine it right now. Well, let's just say, LeBron James is out of the game and it's a more Trey Young, Anthony Davis led group out there on the court. You could have them running high pick and roll, and Anthony Davis can either pop to that free throw line area or he can be a lob threat at the rim, and then it's Trey Young coming off that screen. It's hey, he's either got the floater, he can get to the rim, he can pull up for three, pull up for mid-range, but he's also so elite at making the corner kick passes and also the kickouts to the opposite corner. Trey Young excels at that. And, what have been some of the negatives of Trey Young's game since coming to the NBA? I would probably say the turnovers and the efficiency. Well, I could probably test most of that to him having to carry a majority of the offensive load for the Atlanta Hawks over the past couple of seasons. But if you would pair him next to LeBron, next to Anthony Davis, it wouldn't be so much on the shoulders of Trey Young. And I think we could see a very efficient Trey and a very, savvy Trey Young, where it's more of him controlling the pace instead of him being this overwhelming offensive generator that he has been with the Los Angeles Lakers. So I think Trey Young's a very interesting option, but Bill Simmons did say he would bet the over on both these guys, or on these guys getting traded if the line was set at 1.5 or whatever it may be. So the other guy, Dejounte Murray, let's talk about him for a little bit. Dejounte Murray, I would say he's honestly not polar opposites of Trey Young, but he is an opposite player. He is the more rim-attacking, defensive-minded guard that we have. And, I've had a tough time evaluating his game over the past couple of years since he has been playing a lot more off-ball, obviously next to Trey Young. And overall, that fit hasn't been as seamless as Atlanta would have hoped so. But Dejounte Murray, one thing I loved about his game that has improved over the last couple of years, his three-point shooting. On catch-and-shoot threes this past season, he was just under 40%, which, as we know, playing next to LeBron James, that's probably the number one attribute that I would want in a player next to him. But he's also great at getting to the rim. Is he the same, level of passer as Trey Young? No, but he is still a good playmaker that we have here in the NBA. So if I had to pick between, Dejounte Murray and Trey Young for the Lake Show, I would go Trey Young, but you also got to remember it would probably be, I don't want to say significantly less, but it would definitely be less to trade for, Dejounte Murray in comparison for Trey Young. Maybe the Lakers, send Atlanta of an offer where it's like, hey, we'll give you Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, yeah, maybe Gabe Vincent to help match salaries, and you give them 3 first-round picks for Trey Young. And then if you're the Lakers, you could say, yeah, we're still going all in on these, final 2 years for LeBron or however long it will be. But then you also have a Trey Young, Anthony Davis core that you can build around for the future. So, the more I talk about this and just, hearing or explaining my thoughts, the more I fall in love with the idea of the Lake Show trading for Trey Young. But you guys let me know, who would you rather trade for, Trey Young or Dejounte Murray? Let me know your thoughts down below. Now, Woj did have an interesting quote talking about the Lakers head coaching search, as obviously they did strike out on Dan Hurley. They offered him a 6-year, $70 million deal, and, he turned it down. He wants to go chase that three-peat at UConn, but he had an interesting quote on James Borrego. He says, I think James Borrego is still going to be a significant name in this search. He's in Cleveland now. He'll meet with the Cavs on Tuesday all day long. He's prominent in that search. Borrego's already been twice in LA. Head coach in Charlotte, if you look back, went 33 wins to 43 wins, 2 play-in tournaments, and then a really good season last year in New Orleans where they hold him in high regard as a top assistant. He was with Greg Popovich a long time ago in San Antonio, and he says, I think he will be prominent in both the Cavs and the Lakers searches. So I think the Lakers head coach search, I think it's coming down to JJ Redick and James Borrego. And, we got the report, it was from Bobby Marks, where he said he thinks Anthony Davis would prefer James Borrego over JJ Redick. And then we also heard it from Shams saying that LeBron James has had no insight on the Lakers head coaching search. Personally, if I had to pick one of these guys, I was originally in the camp of JJ Redick, but the more I learn about Borrego and the more I just hear him talk and I go back and I listen to interviews and I hear what other players have said about him and I just keep going through his coaching history, I'm starting to lean him. And what he did in Charlotte, I think, was incredibly impressive. Like, you took a terrible Charlotte Hornets team and you had them winning 43 games in a season. I think that's a tremendous, tremendous accomplishment for Borrego. And now, you have the JJ Redick side of things where it's like, he is, well respected in this kind of social media world we live in. And I've talked about how I think, with these younger players coming up in the league, they're on their phones all the time. They're checking social media. They're seeing what everybody's saying about them. And, I think when you have JJ, as your head coach and you see all these positive things about him on social media, maybe it would just kind of get in the back of these young kids' minds where they're saying like, oh, everybody else respects JJ Redick. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'll respect him as my head coach, off the jump. But I do definitely think JJ could, he could cause some locker room issues with Los Angeles, and, just the natural, effect of having a podcast with LeBron James. I don't think that could be understated or undervalued. If you're like, let's just say if you're a guy like, take Jared Vanderbilt, for example, and maybe you're not getting enough playing time and you see LeBron and JJ Redick being all buddy-buddy, like it could just, piss some people off where it's like, hey, you only got this job because you're friends with LeBron James and now you're messing everything up with our rotations. Like, people could just, really turn on him quickly, which is definitely a possibility. But, with what Woj just saying, I think it's going to be a 2-man race between JJ Redick and James Borrego. We also did get a report that the Lakers want to have this done before the NBA draft. Well, JJ Redick's covering the NBA Finals, and let's just say that series goes 7. You could be only a couple days from after the Finals to the start of the NBA draft, and then are you going to get a deal done there? Well, what if Borrego decides to go take the Cleveland head coaching job, and then the Lakers could be sitting there saying, well, what the hell are we going to do now? Are we just going to go hire JJ Redick because he's the only option, still out there? And we've heard names like Sam Cassell, Micah Nori. They're going to meet with the Lakers as well. Really like Sam Cassell, especially if you want to, instill a culture here in Los Angeles of player development and building through the draft. I think he would be a great choice. But sounding like it's either going to be Borrego or Redick, and it seems like the Lakers are playing with fire here in terms of picking one to trade for. But, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you guys haven't already, hit that subscribe button and also hit the like button on the way out of here. I would really appreciate it. But see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, go Lakers.